Welcome, everybody. I'm Bonnie Halper, and this is our we have them usually every 2 weeks. Our online investor insights. I write the weekly startup one-step newsletter, which always lists the when the next one is, and a lot more than that. And I also help founders with their pitch decks and executive summaries when they're looking for investors. And if you need a ghostwriter, which everybody should have something and keep your name out on the radar, your company. I'll put that contact information in there too. Sallie Jian is from Diageo. I'm sorry, I'm getting over this allergy thing. So, and we want to welcome her. And first, we want to thank Joseph Katz for hosting us. Joseph, tell us about what you do.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Bonnie. My name is Joseph Katz, results-driven marketer. Been helping corporates and startups for many years go from unknown to well-known using strategic marketing. Also co-host a podcast. I'll put my information in the chat. We have a large crowd, so we're going to keep intros short, and looking forward to today's chat.
So, Sallie, would you like us to go around the room and have everybody introduce themselves so you know who's in the room? What do you want?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Igor.
Hey everyone, my name is Igor. I'm the founder at Roya, an ad tech co-pilot that automates marketing, budgeting, and insights for brands.
And he has something of a history with Diageo as well. I know that.
Oh yes, a little bit. There are close family friends actually.
Yes. The names keep popping. But Robin.
Yeah, hi. Let me put my video on. Hello, I'm Robin, and I have a specialty. I help startups, specifically work with industry analysts like Gartner, Forrester, IDC, and I help them get positioned with those guys for their benefit.
And everybody, please put your contact information in the chat. Ray Martin.
Yeah, my name is Raymond Martin, founder of Wilink, e-commerce platform, social media platform, B2B, D2C, B2C and D2C, color the mega man only. And you pay the price, negotiate and pay the price you want to pay for your goods and services.
Thank you. Sam.
Hi, so I'm Sam Bogosh, CEO of Axel AI. We use AI to help brands find and repurpose content, including user-generated content and social media. And we've been growing and are potentially raising some funds in the next 6 months.
He wants me to get rid of it for him. I'll come back and that's going to be the problem.
Oh, somebody should go on mute. Maybe there's some background noise.
I think that's Bonnie got sidetracked. Patrick.
Oh, okay.
Patrick, why don't you jump in?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Somebody was just at the drive.
No worries.
I asked Patrick to go, Bonnie.
Okay.
Hey everyone. So I'm a lower middle market investment banker at where our firm is called Paddock Capital Markets. We love working with founders to help them think about kind of milestone events, and including debt raising, equity, and mostly what we like to do is sell side M&A. And we're based in New York City. So look forward to meeting everyone.
Oh, thank you. So, I don't know how far we got. Andrew.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Andrew Bine from Brand Intros. We're a marketing tool for companies of all sorts, although we actually do a lot in the beverage industry. And what we allow training, incentives, and just basically getting the story out to specific trade-oriented constituencies. So not so much consumer marketing, but getting the story out B2B.
Sturgio, Flavor Apps. Good branding there, Sturgio.
Hi there. Hi, everyone.
So tell us about Flavor Apps. Briefly, of course.
Yeah, of course. So we're building Flavor. It's an app to find places to eat, essentially restaurants, and do all your planning for your next dinner, from booking restaurants to paying while you're at the restaurant.
Oh, I know Angie's probably multitasking, but do you have a minute to introduce yourself or no?
Yeah, this is Andrew Sanderson. I am the with Gratis Intelligence. We're a digital sampling agency doing alcohol sampling.
Oh, thank you. Amy and Annie, good to see you again.
Hi, morning. I'm Annie, and I work at the influencer marketing space, basically helping tech and CPG clients grow their business with the help of social media marketing. Happy to see y'all.
Oh, thank you. Ato, I hope I'm pronouncing your Ato. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. Ato Roy.
Yeah. I'm Atu. I actually used to work at a VC firm that had a few investments in the alcohol space. We did a few brand stuff, and then some at the at the retail level as well. And just here to see what people are working on, and then potentially learn more about what brands people are starting and how I can help them.
Oh, are you still investing?
I moved to another VC firm, and we don't do as much in the alcohol space, but I know people who are doing things. I know people who have like small funds that are deploying capital. So,
oh, we should talk. We should talk at some point. Ian.
Hey, I'm Ian, CEO of Grass Intelligence. Work alongside Andrew Sanderson. As he mentioned, we're modernizing consumer sampling and engagement, starting with alcohol.
Oh, thank you. Daniel. You're muted, maybe. Not a good time. Crystal. Oh, she's having technical difficulties. Did we get everybody? Scott Purdy, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was on mute there. Yeah, Scott Purdy with Sine, one of the founders of Sine. We make a movie making application. Also do some part-time acting. I just got back yesterday from doing a horror movie in Georgia. So I've been pretty busy lately. I'm glad to be here. I love these meetings. Thanks so much.
In the spare time, he's an actor. I'm getting a lot of parts. Congratulations to you, Scott. Serena, welcome as always.
Hello, great to be here. So I'm based in Switzerland. I have a banking background, and currently I'm focused on strategic partnerships and business development, mainly in finance area and also e-commerce.
Zishan.
Hey guys, Zishan from Diageo here, supporting our Pronghorn venture capital fund. Just wanted to listen and learn and support you guys. Thanks.
Oh, thank you for coming. Did I get everybody? Because the names keep popping around. I don't want to miss anyone. So,
yeah.
Ian, sorry, your name was Ian of all people. Ian.
Well, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Ian Garmaze. I'm with Virtual Film School. We provide live online training for aspiring influencers, and we do this in partnership with colleges and universities globally. So we're currently doing business in about 5 countries. And I'll put my contact information in the chat.
Yeah, and please feel free to put your LinkedIn information to everybody as well. Sallie, it's your week now. We want to hear from you.
Okay, great. Hi, nice to meet everyone here. I like the round robins we just did of intros. Good to know who's in the room. I'm Sallie Jian, and I am with Diageo. Diageo, for those of you not familiar with the company, is one of the largest alcohol conglomerates in the world. So we own many brands, including ones I'm sure you have heard of, like Casamigos, Don Julio, Kettle, Smirnoff, Tanqueray, Bulleit, Johnny Walker, Guinness, and many others. I am personally on the ventures team, the venture capital team at Diageo. So that means I am a corporate VC, which means I help Diageo, my corporate, invest. And we mostly invest into brands, brands meaning beverage brands. And most of the beverage brands we invest in are in the alcohol spirits sector, and some of them are also within non-alcohol as well. So that is a big strategic area that we mostly invest in from my team, the ventures team. And we invest globally. We invest from early stage into growth stage, very much about the opportunity and the fit of the brand into the larger Diageo portfolio. And then I also personally work a bit with our innovation team on the digital side. So we have some projects where we launched an accelerator program earlier this year for tech startups that we did in sort of a phase cohort theme around consumption at home. So digital startups that could allow for our brands to be enjoyed and discovered and celebrated with at home by our consumers worldwide. So I worked on some of that too on the tech side. And my background previous to joining Diageo is I actually was in tech for pretty much most of my career. And I started out in investment banking on the technology investment banking side in Silicon Valley, moved to New York, worked at a growth equity firm, and then went into startup and venture capital world and was previously at SAP, the enterprise software company, when I met Bonnie. Well, actually, maybe we met Bonnie before that, but I have been doing ventures for a long time and specifically been working in large Fortune 100s on the ventures teams. So I have a lot of experience understanding how to bridge Fortune 100 companies with startups, with investors and the ecosystem surrounding startups into a large corporate such as SAP, such as Diageo. I think you're on mute, Bonnie.
I'm so sorry. We open up to Q&A. So questions from the room.
I'm curious about the current strategy. What are you looking for, and what kinds of relationships are you looking to structure?
Yeah, so sometimes our strategy, I don't want to like commit to saying exactly what we do on this call, but we have a portfolio of brands that include startups in the whiskey space, tequila space, non-alc, low alc space. So we're really looking at emerging brands that have created an interesting, strong growth track record. And we don't invest in beer and wine out of our ventures portfolio, so that's excluded. But if you're really interested, we have a website with a partner organization called Distill Ventures. It's distillventures.com. They're a 30-person team that's global. They're independent of Diageo, but they work exclusively with me, my team, and they help our 3-person ventures team really manage our portfolio end to end. So they have some information about the portfolio that we currently have invested in. And we did launch so most of our companies, we don't invest too early. We are investing kind of at the Series A and up stage, not pre-launch, not too early. But we did launch a fund for underrepresented founders that we call the pre-accelerator. And there we have invested smaller checks of $300 to $500K to get in earlier, more at the seed stage, still post-launch, but to give an opportunity to startups that have these younger, track records, but have maybe less resources than some of the brands that we typically see in the market. So, and then I would say in terms of strategy, it is evolving, but it does mirror the things that you could see in Diageo portfolio, kind of like the next generation of it, because we do think about brands that we can share our resources, their distribution channels, our go-to-market with. And so we wouldn't be investing like soft drinks, for example, because that's steers too far away from our spirits and alcohol business.
Is that why you don't invest in wine and beer as well?
Yeah, pretty much. So Diageo had a wine business years ago, divested out of wine. So we don't have a Diageo wine portfolio anymore. We do have beer, mostly it's Guinness. So we're not really expanding on the beer side from at least out of the ventures portfolio. And then we have some exposure to LVMH, which owns like champagne wines as well. So we already have exposure to those categories through LVMH.
Ian, you had a question.
Yeah, I just was following up on what you said, but I was curious if you could give us any examples of companies that are in your accelerator program, just to give us an idea. I mean, a more specific idea of what.
Sure. So I'll give you there's two companies we acquired in the last few years that we invested in out of ventures, Seedlip and Mr. Black. So Seedlip was basically one of the first non-alc spirits. It kind of launched the category of non-alc spirits, and we invested in Seedlip really early, around the seed stage. And with our team, plus the Distill Ventures team I mentioned, we were able to grow the business over the years, and Diageo acquired. So now it's Diageo brand, and with 3 SKUs. They actually just launched a 4th SKU recently with agave. And then similar, Mr. Black is a cold brew liqueur. And that's also quite different than the rest of Diageo portfolio. Is one of the only beverages that has caffeine and coffee. And that was also one of the brands out of the ventures portfolio that we helped grow and follow on over time and then acquired. And so we have some other brands now in our portfolio that are maturing that may be acquired as well down the line.
Great. Thank you.
Zeri.
Hi. My question is, I know a couple of mid-sized distillers, and they're interested sometimes meeting new companies and potentially investing and working with them in some sort of a capital structure. Do you work with companies like that? And if so, how?
I mean, a lot of our companies, our brands, particularly the whiskey brands, have their own distilleries. So some of the whiskey yes, so we do. I mean, there's various factors that we'll look at. But yeah, we have whiskey companies that have their own distillery. And then we have brands that, use like manufacturers instead of distillery. But I guess you can, if there's some particular companies you have in mind, you can just send them my way.
Sure.
It's hard for me to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a more general question here, but
yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Next question. Oh, Ian. I hope I pronounced it properly that time.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Sallie, I was following the Celebrate at Home cohort of your guys throughout the winter. I'm curious, what were some of the more interesting projects you saw out of that?
There were definitely a lot of AI applications in that program that we held. The Celebrate at Home program was about reaching our consumers, educating about our brands, and just overall more widespread awareness and education about our products in alignment to consumers. So we had some applications that were around personalization, some that were around experiential opportunities, some around even like we had some hardware companies in there as well. So I mean, there were a lot of really interesting companies. There were a couple companies that I have worked with personally in the past, so maybe I'll probably more biased towards those ones, but we had like Super Logic, which was around more like loyalty and engaging our consumers and offering them like rewards and opportunities to like, you know, really kind of experience Diageo beyond just the drinking of the bottle, but like other opportunities to really be a part of Diageo experiences worldwide. So that one was very interesting. Another company I had met when I was at SAP called Obsess. That's about immersive experiences. So they can develop experiences with some of our like distilleries or hospitality venues around the world and allow people from anywhere in the world to experience these experience in like an augmented reality type of environment on our online platforms. There's some other ones that had like food pairings or understanding people's taste preferences so that we could recommend different cocktails or drinks to enjoy at home or purchase at the point of sale. So yeah, there's some interesting opportunities or brands or startups there. You can, if anyone's curious, you can just Google the website, which is Fusion Labs by Diageo, and you can see the roster of, there was around 18 startups to start with, and we narrowed it to, I think the top 5 are working now close with Diageo business units to find a pilot to actually work alongside Diageo and deploy some really interesting applications with some of our brands.
So you do invest in technology as well, or was that one of the companies you invested in, the immersive experience?
So we haven't invested in this cohort of startups yet, in the digital startup, in the digital accelerator. It's more about a partnership and running pilots first, and then seeing how that relationship evolves. We have invested in tech startups before, but currently it's not a priority.
Okay, thank you. Ian.
Yes. Have you done anything with influencer marketing?
I personally have not, but
okay, but the company, would you say that Diageo is doing it?
Of course. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
so is it a big?
We have brands that have tons of like influencers, brand ambassadors, whether that when we have a lot of these brands. Like I have this one brand that I'm working with, they have a few hundred brand ambassadors. So some of that is like social media, digital marketing, some of that is like in person. So yes, we definitely do. I am not personally involved in that myself, but I know a lot of our brands, they have marketing teams, sponsorship, partnership teams that their whole job is to like engage with audiences and leverage influencers or media agencies, etc. You name it.
Great, thanks.
So next question, don't be shy. This is your opportunity. This is everybody's forum here.
Yeah, I have a question to ask.
Sure.
Do you invest in e-commerce?
I'm not so I mean, in terms of investing in tech right now, we're not actively investing in technology startups. We're mostly just doing partnerships and pilots with tech startups. And you know, I guess some of the companies I would categorize them in e-commerce. But with alcohol in the US, it's a little bit of a different ball game. We can't sell direct to consumer. So that means we have to, when it comes to e-commerce, we have to use very specialized platforms to sell our products. Like on the supplier side, the Diageo side, we have to distribute our products to wholesalers. Typically and that's how it gets into the hands of consumers.
Why is that? I'm just curious.
It's like
distribution thing.
Laws from the prohibition
wow.
that have stayed intact, and there's obviously been changes throughout the decades long, but there's still, there's definitely, I mean, and you can say, you know, there's like pros and cons to that too, right? So selling to wholesaler versus selling to each individual consumer, you know, there's pros and cons. Obviously, we have some brands like on the non-alcohol side, they have some ability to go D2C or e-commerce. But for the alcohol, most of them cannot.
Hey, go ahead.
Yeah. You know, when I think alcohol tech startups, Drizzly's usually the first thing that comes to mind. And I'm curious, what do you see filling the gap now that Drizzly's been shut down in terms of alcohol delivery and any opportunities Diageo or other alcohol brands are doing in regards to delivery?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was like one alternative to delivery. I think there's still a bunch of companies out there that are able to do it. I mean, GoPuff, I think Uber Eats is still doing it. They maybe disbanded Drizzly, but they integrated Drizzly into Uber Eats. So it's not going away. It's maybe it's consolidating. There's like different opportunities with like the brick and mortars and the these like delivery platforms to work together more collaboratively. I don't have too much commentary on that because that's just out of my wheelhouse. I don't work on commercial distribution at Diageo, so it's not something that I'm like dealing with on a day-to-day, so I don't want to give you an answer where it doesn't make sense. But I will say, like, there are a lot of alternatives for brands still on e-commerce or delivery, and it's a little bit easier for our startup brands to navigate because they're smaller. They can kind of be nimble and change up vendors. With Diageo, like, we're not once we're like locked in with a big e-commerce platform, that we might be locked in for a while. So we only use a couple of vendors, whereas our startups, I see them, they're able to kind of try and pilot different options out there without as much like potential scrutiny or issues down the line.
I have a question. I've been reading a lot about how people are gravitating more towards non-alcoholic beverages. Even in bars, there are bars that they don't have alcoholic. I mean, they have beverages and mixers and all that, but all the alcohols are non-alcohols. Have you noticed that? Are you paying especial attention to that segment of the market?
Yeah, it's a big. We're very bullish on non-alc alternatives. That is, we've invested before in non-alc. We are continuing to invest in non-alc. We have several brands in our portfolio that are in the ventures portfolio, and then some of our trademark brands like Guinness Tanqueray, Captain Morgan have released zero proof. Like we have a great Guinness Zero product in the market in the US. Tanqueray and Captain Morgan, for example, their zeros are not in the US yet, but they are selling abroad. So yeah, internally we're doing it from an investment perspective, we're doing it. It just makes sense for us. It's an extension to what we're already working on. And I mentioned earlier, what we invest in are brands that can share the same distribution channels and resources when it comes to like, sales, commercial. So these non-alc brands are aligned with that. And like some of them, I mean, their growth is like, 3x every year. So, and they continue to have these like figure growth, growth percentages every annual growth. So you don't necessarily see that with some alcohol brands these days, but you're seeing it with non-alc. And so it's very incremental to our business. It doesn't take away, it just adds to what we already have.
Nice.
One hypothetical question I wanted to ask regarding to alcohol. Like Macy's sell alcohol online, which you could buy it in online, just like you have to pretty much prove that you're over the age of 18 to buy it and they ship it directly to you. With e-commerce, if you have the license to distribute alcohol, I believe that you should be able to invest into e-commerce by just list your alcohol on the platform and have wholesaler and retailer buy directly from you by cutting out the middleman. Maybe by that perspective, you could maybe bring in more revenue or expand your user base from that aspect.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, was that a question?
Yeah, it was a question that I was asking regarding to that, because I know like on Macy's, I brought it from Macy's before, like alcohol online, but you have to prove that you're over the age of 18 to buy
21, but yeah.
online. Okay. But like I have an e-commerce platform, but by doing that, you invest in alcohol, you should able to also invest in e-commerce because they would help you to pretty much make more sales.
I mean, we can sell on e-commerce, just not directly on our own websites. We have to go through
Yeah, but I have an e-commerce which is a B2B, B2C and D2C. I don't know if you want to take a look into that.
You can send it my way, but I think, for us, like with Diageo, we have a couple vendors we know, and they're connected to our systems, but our startups are the ones that have some more flexibility in terms of trying out different vendors. But the bar is very high to do online sales for alcohol.
I have a question about resources, information. On a day-to-day basis, if you could describe some of the tools that you're using externally to be able to gather the stuff that you need to do your job. I'm just, be really curious about specific information sources that you find are valuable in the industry.
Yeah, we use a lot of like Nielsen data. We use our internal data. We have IWSR. Those are kind of the big pools of data that they're updated oftentimes in real time.
I don't know what happened.
I don't necessarily mean data strictly, but also just, what's going on in the industry, what's, the stuff you need to do your job.
Yeah. I mean, we look at a lot of macro trends. We have a consumer insights team in the company. We have strategy team. So we have a lot of sort of teams and resources we can glean on in terms of getting information about like consumer trends, taste profiles, trends specifically within different categories of beverages. So we look at a lot of this data. We also talk to a lot of founders. We go to a lot of conferences, sit with a lot of these like groups where just like domain experts. So we're getting a lot of these insights, but we're also meeting a lot of companies and investors one-on-one where we're able to gather more information. And with brands, with startups, you know, you can see kind of the proof in the pudding when it comes to financials and the data. So there's a bit of like macro studying and research, but also deep dives with each startup to understand what's going on and the growth trajectory and how, and seeing if that is lined up with what we're looking for at Diageo.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you mentioned that you obviously meet with a lot of startups that are pitching you, so you must hear a lot of pitches. But is there anything that you're not getting offered that you would like to be offered? Any kinds of projects that you're not seeing many interesting pitches?
Yeah, I think, you know, with this startup, yeah, I mean, we look at hundreds of thousands of brands every year, and we have the opportunity to invest in a handful. So we're seeing all kinds of brands. Diageo is one of the first they call if they're in this space.
Right.
I think what's difficult is to find a brand that's really kind of a unicorn. A lot of brands are pitching kind of the same thing, you know, like additive free, made in this region, has like sustainability. But now that's becoming so common that it's no longer differentiator. So looking for something that's like just different and stand out, because if there's 1,000 brands we look at and we're only going to invest in one of them, they really have to have kind of all the pieces figured out for us to be like, wow, this is the standout brand.
Yeah, okay. I mean, so are you only looking at things specifically connected with alcohol, or you're looking at things that are a bit further afield that might help you in some way?
Mostly alcohol and the non-alcohol that replaces alcohol occasions.
All right, thanks.
Now I'm curious what you invested in lately or recently that was such a standout that you're like, wow, and wrote the check.
Trying to think what not all of our investments are public, so
Okay. Sorry.
most of them are not public,
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
We do have this one brand. I mentioned the earlier stage funding that we do for underrepresented founders. That brand is called Ume Plum Liqueur, UME, and it's like a purple low alc aperitif, and it's just it's different. The taste is different. The look is different. Usually when you have an aperitif, it's a daytime spritz occasion, daytime cocktail spritz. They're like focused on nighttime spritz occasion, which is also quite different. We like the founder, and so it's just one of the more recent ones that I can talk about. but like that is something that's different. And I think it was a little polarizing that everyone felt like it could be, not everyone agreed, right, that it could be a successful brand. But I think it was like different enough that we're interested in learning more and supporting the journey.
Thank you. Ian.
I'm curious what publicly available like industry newsletters, websites, resources do you kind of turn to on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, alcohol wise or startup wise?
Startup wise, I read like a bunch of things. I listen to a bunch of podcasts. I just start my morning typically. I listen to like Financial Times, NPR News, and Wall Street Journal, and I just kind of start listening to podcasts at the beginning of my day just to hear what's happening globally. And then there's some industry like newsletters that you can follow. Like Park Street is one of them. And what's the other one there's one that Mark Brown, it's like an industry specific one. And then just like talking with my colleagues and different teams is kind of where there's a lot of good, and then following certain people on LinkedIn that I like to keep up with are always spreading good industry news.
Oh, thank you. Patrick.
Hi. So yeah, we always have companies that come to us, and we always think about corporate venture as an option. But I was curious, how are you guys thinking about your positions? Are you thinking you want a board seat? Are you thinking that you want to kind of be a passive investor? Are you looking at partnerships, and kind of what's the eventual goal? Is it to maybe control the whole business? Are you okay with exit? Just curious about how you think about the initial investment and kind of where it would go a lot of the time.
Yeah, we take a minority stake in the ventures startups that we invest in, and we typically take a board seat. So an executive from Diageo will join the board. Myself and my colleagues, our team, ventures team, will be board observers or board directors as well sometimes. So we're active with these brands, and our Distill Ventures team is very active and hands-on day-to-day with these brands, and we track and monitor them monthly to see how things are going. Our long-term goal is, we invest in brands that we think there could be a long-term relationship down the line. So we are very supportive and we help them along that journey. And if things go well for both sides, we may acquire the brand. That's the ultimate kind of long goal. But we also don't mind if things don't work out, they can go on to do their own thing, and we can agree on that as well. So there's some flexibility, but we don't invest in brands that we don't think there's long-term potential with.
Well, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Ian.
No, well, this is kind of following up on Patrick's point, but you mentioned that most of your investments are not public.
Mm-hmm.
So what form do they take? Like what is the structure of it? Is it a partnership or?
No, it's mostly equity.
Okay.
Minority equity investments. Sometimes we do safes with smaller checks.
Okay, but not publicized. Right. Yeah.
No, some of the investments are public, not all of them, but some of them are.
Right. And how do you decide which way you're going to go?
We let the founders decide, actually. We have a conversation, and ultimately the founders decide. Because there's benefits of being to say, in press release Diageo invested, but then there's also cons where you know, once they have a big investor like Diageo, they might not get the same benefits of a startup.
Right. That's useful. Thank you.
Is there a general rule in corporates or strategics? Because I know you came out of SAP as well, so.
Yeah, there were also, when I was at SAP, there were a lot of investments that weren't private either. I mean, weren't public either. Like some of the smaller investments, maybe if we got on like an off-bridge round, or if we didn't want people knowing we invest in certain like category or certain company. So it's really like deal to deal dependent. Yeah.
Okay, so I was curious.
Mhm.
Next question. Don't be shy. As I said, this is your forum here.
Well, I'll just ask. I mean, I'm not sure it's your area, but can you say something about alcohol consumption trends in different regions? I don't, I imagine you have to keep track of that for deciding what to invest in. But what trends do you see?
I'm focused on North America, so I won't be able to comment on global. But yeah, I mean, I think it's not a secret that alcohol consumption is kind of plateauing, and like 50% of Gen Z and millennials have said they're trying to abstain or drink less or not drink, right? So obviously that is something we're paying close attention to, and the why and the how to tackle that. And one of the ways that we're tackling that is with like innovation internally, and then with these external startups that we're looking at investing in on the non-alc side or low alc side, creating just working with brands that do kind of are more expansive and do help open the doors for different occasions to have products or try these different products. So that's definitely something we're following. And then, on the non-alc side, there's like 100% year-over-year growth. So
wow.
So we, with some projections, it's like $1 billion industry in the next 5 years. So that's something we pay attention to in terms of these like projections and where some of these like real life trends are going, and making sure that we are following where to invest from that standpoint, where we have invested, if that specific category is declining, trying to understand why, and if it's declining, where can we what other channels can we pursue, or other strategies we can pursue to help the portfolio brands find other additional ways of selling and continuing to do well in the market.
You also mentioned experiential marketing, I guess. So is that a very big focus? Or experiential activities to promote consumption? I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of the way that these food and beverage products land is through experiential, through what we call like liquid to lips sampling, different types of activations. That's why, like, if you go to like a food fair, or I don't know, like a music festival, or there's always a lot of samples. If you go to Total Wine or ABC and you walk into the store, there's probably like 100 vendors sampling their product, because there's a high conversion rate when you're sampling something to purchase, versus you seeing like 100 different products on the shelf that all look the same and labeled the same. So definitely like having that personalized or in person or experiential helps drive those conversions.
I have a question. So with the focus on, fair trade and sustainable, has Diageo been paying attention to that, or has that been a focus?
Yeah, we're exploring all the time. For example, we just released Bailey's in these paper bottles, and so we done these like packaging initiatives. We have a water savings big project. We have all of these different projects from our supply chain team that they're working on, plus the materials that we're using. And then like some of our products are also like the ingredients themselves. We look to change and improve the formulations based on what's more sustainable. So yes, all the time. And then with startups, like we have some like B Corps in the mix as well.
Oh, thank you. Question or a comment?
Well, I was curious about your partnership with LVMH. Could you say more about how you work with them?
It's just, oh yeah, it's very public. Diageo has a big ownership stake in LVMH.
Okay.
Yeah, from many years ago, I think from the 90s or something, Diageo was brought in by the Arnault family to help be a minority investor, and then has kept that stake. And so we get a lot of exposure to their alcohol portfolio that way as well. So they have like cognac, so we don't invest in cognac.
Right. I didn't know you had an equity stake, but do you co-invest with other companies on occasion?
We typically like to lead and are kind of the sole investors for most of the brands, but there are definitely opportunities where we co-invest, and there are other investors on the cap table, and we're not stuck to just we're open-minded to having co-investors in certain situations. Yeah.
Thank you.
What's the internal approval process like to make an investment? Is it fairly efficient, or does it kind of stop with you and you can?
Yes, I mean, we have investment committee, so that's with our with our executives. So my team will help pitch investment at investment committee, and by the time it gets to investment committee, usually it has a pretty decent chance because it's gone through many layers of diligence and internal approvals already before it gets in front of the executives. And so once it gets approved, we'll do additional due diligence, like legal conformatory type of diligence, and plan out a strategy with a long-term strategy with how that brand will evolve with Diageo funding. And then we fund it. It's not a short process because we're not like a traditional VC where we just kind of deploy capital and we have to keep deploying capital. We are planning a long-term partnership together, so it takes time to figure out what that looks like. And so part of the post-investment committee process is laying that out together, and that takes months of time to get like a really strong plan together with the startup. So it's not quick. It's not as quick as a traditional venture round.
Do you find that founders are seeking you all out? Like, how are you sourcing your transactions? Because I imagine they see a partnership and they describe a partnership to you, or is it the other way around usually?
It can be both, actually. I mean, sometimes, yeah, we have brands that come to us and they're like, we just want Diageo on the cap table. We just want Diageo to invest. This is our goal. Diageo is our exit plan. We just want Diageo only. And then some will approach because we've seen them on the market, we've seen the data, we've seen their success, and it's interesting to us. So then there's some that we'll chase. And we have like the online website where we get a lot of applications. We get like hundreds of applications every year. So we have a lot of inbounds.
Wow.
We got a lot of referrals. So typically when we do approach a startup ourselves, they do, I mean, they already know who we are. So there'll always be initial conversations, but not all of them. Some of them will fall through because they don't agree on our terms, or they don't really want to do this like long-term relationship with us. So there's like a lot of different motivations when it comes to founders.
Interesting. Thanks.
Next question or comment? I know you've answered all mine tonight. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there are no more questions, I'm totally fine.
One thing, I do have a quick question. Do you know any kind of corporate VCs that are focusing on the media space or social media specifically as kind of an adjunct to their marketing initiatives?
I'm not sure that it's like specific ones. I mean, I don't know. I think
All right,
there's
if nothing comes
a lot
to
of
mind,
corporate
then that's
VCs
fine.
out there, and I think they would look at social media, but or marketing, but I think you just have to kind of look at. What I like to do is if you have like certain startups in mind that you think are interesting in your space, or that are like complementary to yours, I would look at who's invested in them and just look up on Crunchbase or like press releases, see who their investors are, and then create a list and try to research. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
What are some of the terms of investing? Is it the founder's business has to use your distribution channels exclusively, or is there anything that is, I'm sure it gives them a huge leg up, but is there anything like that you all ask for?
Well, what we mostly ask for is that our deal structures are done in a way that we think about like the long-term investment path for them. So we set out like basically an economic structure from the outset, and that's sometimes what we don't agree on.
I think. Okay, thanks.
So Sallie, what would you say are the biggest challenges that you're currently facing in all of this activity?
I think right now it's for CPG across the board. It's just been, we just had such growth during COVID that things have plateaued. So I think like for any CPG company, that is actually the challenge now, that kind of drawback on the really amazing growth that we all had. So I think that's just like facing everyone, and for public companies, that's something that investors and analysts are all kind of scrutinizing. So I think as an industry-wide, that's big an area that is a challenge. And as a result, for my team, yeah, like that all trickles down to, okay, so which startups are actually doing well that we can invest in? And then it's also impacting our current portfolio of startups. They're also seeing less sales than they were previously seeing during COVID years. So I think that's kind of the biggest macro trend that's impacting our industry now.
Great, thanks. I mean, I guess it's across the board. So, like you said, it's everybody consumer packaged goods. But are there any companies that that you think are somehow addressing this better than others? That you kind of look up to as somebody that you would like to emulate in some way? That maybe they've found a way to attract consumers' attention more effectively.
Yeah, I think there's some brands that are more creative than others in terms of, and maybe they're doing, like the experiential, we were talking about the e-commerce stuff. Maybe they just have like a stronger marketing team that is kind of figuring out new ways of expanding their audiences. Even like having the right UI, UX design on your website, or having like a subscription, like the right pricing model, all of these like little ways to kind of test how to drive sales, even like extra $50 in the average cart spread across thousands of customers a month. That makes a huge difference to be able to like drive some of those behaviors. That could be very interesting if you can do it at scale.
Yeah, I saw an interview with the founder of a big tequila brand. I can't remember exactly which one, but he kind of came out of nowhere and built like a really, incredibly successful operation. And it seemed like they were using experiential marketing very, very heavily. And you have these breakups, and you people that just sort of come out of nowhere, and they have the right ideas and the right product, and they can do incredibly well in a short period.
Yeah, and the right founders, and yeah.
Funny, I belong to a few listservs, and during the lockdowns, people were commenting on how much more alcohol they were having delivered every week.
When?
During the lockdowns.
Oh yeah, during the lockdown. See,
it's huge.
There's nothing else to do or buy with it.
Exactly. So yeah, those are the halcyon days for you all.
Yeah, exactly.
So question or comment? Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, just a quick question. Thank you so much for doing this. I know you guys cover ventures for the most part, but to piggyback off of some of the other questions, just wondering, to what extent are you maybe scooping up companies that have already done fairly well in the spirits world, of course, or do you focus solely on venture type deals? Say there's an existing sipping tequila that's done really well. Do you ever, I don't know about strategic partnerships, but do you ever engage in that kind of? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So my team, we make minority investments, but we have an M&A team, a partnerships team. So, we have a business development overall team that includes our M&A colleagues and joint venture and colleagues that do joint ventures. So yeah, Diageo has also been very acquisitive of brands, there's no initial investment. There's just like the acquisition itself, like Casamigos was the first $1 billion investment in the spirits world. Acquisition. And so yeah, at times it'll just be an outright acquisition for later stage brands like that. Ventures is just like earlier stage brands, and then M&A is like, large established brands typically. Yeah. And then we have done like partnerships. For example, we had a Vita Coco Captain Morgan product that was out on the market. So there's like all kinds of different types of ways that Diageo works with brands. Mine is just working. My specific team is about working with startups.
Andrew, you want to introduce yourself because you
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Formerly an attorney and been working for a family office in tech investing for the most part, but every so often we come across different opportunities with other families, including one that wanted to sell his shares in tequila. So this is why it kind of came up. And I'm curious, so the issue of acquisition, does it usually take in the form of majority or can it be minority interests? Just kind of curious how the whole spirits
I
world
think
works.
it depends. It's not just like a strict, it depends on the brand. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, speaking of introductions, Ed, proof no more. I think you got here late and you didn't have an opportunity to introduce yourself. I know you're muted right now, but would you like to? I guess not. Okay. Anybody else?
Okay, sounds good.
Or any insights or advice you'd like to offer about approaching Diageo or anything like that?
Yeah, the distillventures.com is really a place to get in touch with our team. Every contact that goes through there, our team is reading. I may not be able to respond to everything because you have thousands of outreaches, but the team there, they're able to cover a lot of the outreach.
Distill Ventures?
Distill, yeah.
You want to chat to them?
Yeah. Yeah. There we go.
I just wanted to make sure we got it right. So anything else? And thank you for that.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for hosting.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you everybody for being here and for all your questions and all your insights, Sallie. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Nice to meet you.